Hi, welcome to Well, Now I'm Curious. I'm Alex.
And I'm Curtis.
And everything I'm going to tell Curtis now, he doesn't know anything about. So everything he's learning, you're learning you're hearing the same things in real time as he is. So the Pascagoula case took place in Mississippi. And the two men involved were Charles Hickson, who was 42 at the time, and Calvin Parker, who was 19 at the time. Calvin Parker had recently moved to Pascagoula, Mississippi to start work at the shipyard where Charles Hickson was a foreman because Calvin was supposed to get married and he just needed a stable career. On the 11th of October 1973, they both decided to go night fishing, but Calvin didn't have any fishing gear, so they went back to Charles's house. He lent him his fishing gear. They got in Calvin's car and they made their way to the Mississippi River.
Calvin, the older one.
Calvin's the 19-year-old.
Oh, so he's the one who didn't have any gear.
He didn't have it.
So a typical teenager that's got no brain cells pump firing.
But
forgot his.
But he that's because we've got a teenager. But he did because he was due to get married, so he was trying to set up a stable life for himself.
Right, okay.
So he'd only just moved to the area, so he didn't have anything with him. And
so he didn't have anything with him because he didn't have it, or he just forgot it?
No, he didn't have it.
Okay.
So
okay.
he was borrowing from Charles, but
Fair
Charles
enough.
was like a father figure to him because
an older, wiser figure.
When they were growing up, Charles and Calvin and Charles's son and Calvin's dad, they all used to go on fishing trips together. They were, childhood friends. It was more like a father figure to him than most people realise. But because Calvin wasn't familiar with the area, he just followed Charles's lead, which led them to the Mississippi River, where Charles actually knew it was something to do with, it was like a dumping ground for food for the fish or something, and that's how they ended up where they were. But Charles knew this because obviously he was a keen fisherman.
A dumping ground for the fish from who?
It was like an old, I can't remember, like an old, I want to say wheat factory.
So it was a corporation that was dumping its waste for the fish
kind
to
of
eat.
Yeah. So the fish
could be filled with chemicals and all sorts.
No, it was just attracting fish to the area.
Right, okay.
So Charles knew it was a good area. Now, on the walk from the car to where they ended up, Calvin noticed a few no trespassing signs, which did make him a little bit nervous.
Which is private property, okay.
So he asked Charles were they in any kind of trouble, and Charles said, "Don't worry about it. We're good." So,
that was that.
That was that. So they start to fish. It's an old abandoned pier. There's nobody else there. It's a quiet evening.
That you're aware of.
That we're told. It was a quiet evening. Nobody else around. And Calvin remembers looking out into the water and seeing an old Coast Guard vessel he remembers thinking how strange it was that it would float, because this is the type of thing I think, where it's made of steel, it's heavy, how does it float?
Yeah, the buoyancy of it, yeah.
So as he's thinking that, he sees blue lights reflecting across the water.
But it's not steel though, is it? But just, all right, go on.
Okay. Okay. So he sees blue lights bouncing across the water.
Right,
so
okay. Blue lights bouncing, like ricocheting off.
Reflecting off the water.
Okay.
So initially, Calvin thinks it's the police because that's where his mind goes to. Just a sensible option, which I feel like is what you would think.
Well,
My mind would go straight to aliens. Your mind would go to.
No, not really, because it could be anything, couldn't it? It's all familiarity, really.
Yeah.
It's so association with perception.
Yeah. So anyway, Calvin thinks it's the police because he remembers the no trespassing signs. So he turns to Charles to ask if they're in any kind of trouble.
Right, so they put, yeah.
But Charles isn't looking at the road. He's looking at an oval-shaped craft hovering just above the water.
That's cool.
Hovering silently, and both of them said that it made like a buzzing or a zipping sound. There was no propellers, no visible engine, no visible, nothing that you can associate.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, nothing that you can associate with things that we know to be aircraft. So, and bear in mind, it was back in the 1970s. It was.
Oh wow!
Have I told you the date? It was October.
70 what?
October the 11th, 1973.
So you didn't even have Star Wars out then.
Really?
So you wouldn't have even had any. Well, you wouldn't have had any form of sci-fi like Star Wars. Flash Gordon maybe been out, but you'd have been. We're not in today's age. And back then, you would have been very limited to what...
Well, it's funny you said that, because in one of his interviews, Calvin said he didn't even know what a UFO was.
Exactly.
He had no idea. It wasn't even a thought process.
Because I think Star Wars was either 78... between 77 and 79, I think the first Star Wars came out, but could be wrong. But, yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because we only recognise what we've already perceived and seen.
Exactly, yeah. Which brings me to another weird thing about cave drawings and dragons and things, because they must have seen something.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we're going down there, isn't it?
That's a whole different thing. So let's stick to this one.
What's this? What's it called?
This one. Pascagoula.
Pascagoula. It's a mouthful itself. Yeah, Pascagoula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these two men, who are just ordinary men. One of them, the older one, Charles, he'd been in the Korean War, so he was like
traumatized.
Yeah, he'd seen some things.
Very wise.
Yeah,
seen the world for what it is and not for what the illusion of what everybody perceives it to be.
Yeah, not easily scared.
Yeah.
So this craft, which Charles described as being,
sorry to just cut you dead. I think that I reckon some people could put this case down to like PTSD and stuff, where people could flag up him being mentally. The fact that he's been in war.
They could.
I reckon some people argue the case. Not saying I don't believe that, but you would get the pseudo side of it and the narrative saying that the reason he is how he is and what the potential outcome of his story is the fact that he's losing his marbles.
But how do you explain 19-year-old Calvin Parker?
You don't.
Who's never been at war.
I'm just speaking as you go.
And as you'll find out later, and it took a long, long time for these people to come out, there were many witnesses who also experienced... Well, they didn't experience it, but they did witness at the same time, in the same area, the same thing that these two men described.
Sorry to interrupt you, carry on.
So what they saw, it was, Charles described it as an oval-shaped craft with blue lights wrapped around it. And as the two men were looking at it, actually in an interview with Calvin in 2018, he said that for a second he was thinking to run, but because of all the debris where they were, because it was such an abandoned pier, there was no quick way of running.
So in 2018 that this is being re-interviewed with Calvin, obviously.
Yeah, as an
old man. How old's
man.
Calvin at this?
He's an old man at this point, because for a long, as we'll go into later, Calvin went into isolation. He wanted nothing to do with the attention from this at all.
Yeah.
It
wasn't a great memory.
He allegedly had breakdowns. He spent time in hospitals. Yeah, he really didn't do too well from it at all.
Couldn't deal with the trauma.
No. So as they're thinking about running, and then they kind of... Because have you ever been in a situation where your brain's thinking a million things, but it's all in a nanosecond?
Oh, yeah, a few times, yeah.
So they were thinking about running. They were weighing up their options. They realised they couldn't. But as they're thinking this, the door of the craft opens. It's a blinding bright light. And the two men say 3 beings emerge from the doorway.
Okay.
They don't walk from the doorway. They glide, but they glide so quickly that they were upon the men within seconds.
Like a shadow.
Yeah, they're on them within seconds. Now there were 3 of these beings, and they were described. Charles described them as being short, round about 5'3", 5'4". They were grey, deeply wrinkled. He did say a bit like elephant hide, but he wasn't sure if it was skin or metal.
So it's like a tough hide.
Tough hide, yeah. They had no visible neck. They had cone shapes where the ears and nose should have been. The hands...
Cone shapes, so 3 points on the facial features like cone shaped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which... Yeah, we
Pretty
don't
straight.
know.
Well, completely different to what were ever told about things. That's a okay. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
which
Weird.
again, like, as the story goes on, they do say at some point they were led to believe that these were like robots and not actual aliens.
And that leads to another rabbit hole.
Yeah. So the hands were like pincers, and again in an interview not long after it happened, Charles had said that they were like pincers, but it was like the four like fingers of the hands were like welded together. So again, like a robot. So one creature grabbed Calvin by the left arm. Two creatures grabbed Charles, one on each arm. They grabbed him, yeah.
Okay.
Now, both men felt a sharp pain, but I've read and I've heard more about Calvin's experience of this. He says he felt a sharp pain in his arm. He felt an overwhelming sense of calm wash over him. He was completely paralysed apart from his eyes.
What, from the touch?
From the sharp pain, yeah. It was almost instant.
What, so they must have injected him with something?
So, exactly, yeah. And later on...
Which also could be a human act, or, you know...
There you go. Because later on, when they were examined, they did find like an air puncture wound in both their arms.
Sort of a needle.
And apparently in one of the wars, I read on this, obviously this took me down a rabbit hole. Did you know that they used to do injections into soldiers with like well,
they do it now.
What's it called? Like
it's air injection, isn't it?
An air injection.
Well, you have it now with peptides, and whatever we have now is old and outdated technology all the time. So it's very, very plausible. Makes sense.
So when they were examined, they did have these puncture wounds that resembled like an air injection. Anyway, back to...
But from the 70s, though, that makes you think, like...
Well, exactly.
Like, because we're 2026 now, and air injections are getting more popular to the public consumer.
Yeah.
And you're in 1973, and, like, just shows you how much technology there actually is behind the scenes that people and the public aren't aware of.
That's assuming these are humans. They could be aliens, or
but regardless, but we've got it though, haven't we? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a 53-year gap there of technology which the public is starting to use, and this man has experienced.
Yeah,
which is
he's a man who had
interesting.
No knowledge of UFOs, according to his interview.
No one has any knowledge of UFOs apart from what we're fed, and that's because nobody's seen.
No.
I'm not as a public collective of people. We don't know what a UFO is, and we don't know what aliens are. But it's what we're told. Obviously, people like situations and what you're describing now, and cases on what certain individuals have experienced, but as a collective, we don't know anything.
No.
Sorry, continue.
Thank you. So Calvin, the younger one, he is at this point completely paralysed. All he can move is his eyes. So that was the only information I could find on it. I've listened to so many interviews. That was the only information I could find on it. He felt paralysed, and all he could move was his eyes. Charles said the same thing happened to him, but he does remember turning around to Calvin to check on him as a father figure would, but
natural instinct.
But he said Calvin had fainted, so I don't know whether Calvin had fainted or he was just paralysed and it looked like he'd fainted. I don't know. But whereas Calvin said that he felt an overwhelming sense of calm and nothing really mattered anymore, Charles didn't. Charles felt fear unlike any, and bear in mind this man's been in the Korean War. He felt fear that it was fear that he'd never felt before. He genuinely thought he was never coming back to planet Earth ever again. He thought he was never seeing his family ever again. And from a man who's been in the war, like, you know, that's scary.
Well, it's some trauma, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a trauma at a new level that he's never experienced before.
Yeah.
So did in some cases Calvin faint because he weren't used to that?
Well, that's what Charles claims.
And further, the puncture wounds might have injected him with something later down the line, but that specific moment did he faint due to and
Panic.
due to panic and trauma? Whereas, what's the other guy called? The older Charles, obviously, due to his build-up of trauma experience with war, he managed to stay conscious.
Yeah, well, that's quite an interesting point. You never know, because don't they go through like torture training and things in the military?
But it's not only that.
Or does that depend on your ranking?
Even if you don't, just look at an average Joe, an average person, an average man or woman. You go through things in life, and each time you get stronger and stronger because you go through more difficult tasks and trials and tribulations.
Yeah. And
traumas, so it's natural evolution of progression.
Yeah.
But in Charles, in this specific scenario, Charles we're looking at it from a sense of what environment he's put himself into due to governmental geopolitical conflicts, where he has inserted himself into a war, and in a result has gained an awful amount of trauma from modern warfare.
Yeah.
Where
it's kept him awake, basically. Yeah.
It's where he's got him to this point, and now he's under the influence of, and in a situation that he's never been in before.
Though, when these creatures, should I say, started to lift the two men, although Charles claims that...
How many aliens did they report?
3. There were 2 holding Charles. There was 1 holding Calvin.
Right, okay, because
so
that makes more sense.
Calvin in his...
So they were strong then.
Calvin in his 2008... Bear in mind, Calvin didn't really do many interviews back in... He didn't want anything to do with it. They went under extensive hypnotherapy. What's it called when you put them under hypnosis and they kind of recount something that's... I can't remember what it's called.
I don't know.
Off the top of my head right now, I can't remember what it's called. So bear in mind the interviews with Calvin later on. He is in 2018. That's a long time from it happening to his interviews.
2018 is 45 years, isn't it?
So he's in the interview I watched with him. He's recalling it, and he said he remembered.
And he was 19, so he'll be 50, 62. But Charles won't be able to. Charles isn't alive, I take it, at this point.
No, I don't. I know Charles. Neither of them are alive now.
No, but at the time, I mean.
Yeah.
Charles would have been a very old man.
Yeah. So, what I was saying, in his 2018 interview, Calvin said that he remembered thinking, why was his left arm not snapping? Because they were levitating towards the craft, and as they're levitating, this thing has just got hold of one of his arms, and he's thinking the weight of his body should be snapping his arm or dislocating his arm, and it's not doing. It's like all laws of physics does not.
The only thing that you can look at with theories on that is gravitational devices, isn't it?
So this is what I'm saying. So anyway,
anti-gravitational devices. Sorry.
So the two men get levitated on board this craft, and they have similar experiences, but not the same. So I'll do Charles's experience first. So Charles's experience, he remembers, and he actually said that after this, it was that bright inside the craft that he had welders flashing his eyes for a few days after.
Like a flashbang grenade has gone off and you can't see.
Yeah, he couldn't see properly for a few days. So he says the whole interior of the craft was blinding bright white lights. He said he couldn't see any controls, nothing like that.
So it took him. Did he actually? I'm jumping the gun here, but did his eyes actually adapt to the environment of the light?
I don't. Well, you'd think so. So let me tell you Let me tell you his experience.
Jumping the gun here, that. I'm curious.
So well, you'll find out. So he enters what he calls the examination room. Now, Charles claims that he wasn't placed on anything. He was just suspended in midair. Okay. And the reason why he thinks
floating, basically.
Yeah, the reason why he thinks... Now, all the interviews I watched of him, he actually never mentioned the robotic creature again until the exiting of the craft.
Who who mentioned them being robotic?
Well, I'm going to get into that.
Oh, I'm jumping the gun again now.
Yeah, you are.
Well, you're giving me
You're
you're giving
eager
me mixed
beaver.
clues here. That's why.
Eager beaver. So anyway, so he's suspended.
All right, okay. And this is Charles,
This is Charles, the older
wiser,
one.
the older man. Yeah.
So out of the wall, out of the blindingly bright wall, comes what he describes as being an eye.
Okay.
Now this eye comes within inches of his face, stays there for a few seconds. He thinks it's scanning him. Whether it was or not, nobody knows.
Sorry, you know what comes straight to my mind here is
Flight of the Navigator.
Flight of the Navigator.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say, because that's what came to my mind.
But when did the Flight of the Navigator come out?
Oh, let's just pause it. Let me check. Right, sorry, we're back. When was it? When was Flight of the Navigator?
Flight of the Navigator is 1986.
So afterwards. Right. So Charles claims this eye came from the wall, waited in front of his face for a few seconds. We think it scanned him. It might not have done, but probably. Then the reason why he thinks he was suspended and not on a table was because the eye then went down one side of his body, scanned the entire underside of him. But obviously, it doesn't really say if he can move or not, but I'm presuming he can't. But he also does say that he did try to talk to the robot creature. So I told a lie earlier. I said he didn't mention it. But he actually did say he tried to ask what was going on. And the robot creature just didn't even acknowledge his presence. It was kind of like just robot-like. So this eye goes down one side of his body. He presumes it scans him all under his body. Next thing he sees, it comes up on the other side of him, scans all the other side of him, and then disappears back into the wall.
Right.
So that's Charles's...
Can I tell you? So just from what you've told me already where we are at a private location where there's a corporation.
No, it's an abandoned pier.
Allegedly.
Okay.
But it's a commercial corporate abandoned place.
Yeah.
In the 80s.
This is the 70s.
I know this,
okay.
but there's facts, there's factual evidence, and then also theories on top that in the 80s, and this could be earlier, the CIA was using 5G technology to scan people's bone structures for identification.
What?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, for people in 5G technologies, new, it's not, it's old. That's what this, going back to what we spoke beforehand. So even...
That's even more creepy than an alien.
So when you look at Operation Bluebeam, an operation...
Should we be talking about this? Am I going to get in trouble?
No, we're just talking. But so basically, just when you look at governmental whistleblowers, whether they're telling the truth or not, and when you look at... there's been multiple... So there's been multiple scenarios and stories of whistleblowers speaking about the CIA and the NSA pretending to be aliens.
I have heard
and
that.
Abducting people
and frightening people
for a bigger agenda, which is another rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
regardless of that, if you look at that for what that is, and you look at the fact that they was using 5G technology back around that era, all this makes sense for even if it's not alien, it makes sense for human technology to have done it to them as well.
Yeah. Well,
which is very interesting. Like I
will
say, we don't know.
Hold that thought, because that, we'll go further into that. So, as I say, this eye finishes scanning him, disappears into the wall. The next thing he knows, the robot-like creature takes him out of the craft, drops him a few feet from the floor, back to where it took him from, where he sees Calvin facing the water, arms stretched out, which is really weird to me, because when you hear the
Is he flat on the floor?
No, he's stood up, he's facing the water, arms stretched out. So
strange.
This creeped me out, because I feel like
he's possessed or something.
In a trance, and I feel like there's some kind of time lapse here, like some kind of meddling with time. But anyway, I'm going to tell you Calvin's experience. and then we can go back to that point.
So this is Charles' experience.
That was Charles's, the older
right.
one's
Okay.
experience.
Now this is where it gets interesting.
So Calvin's experience, and this, most of my information I have got from his 2018 interview.
Okay.
But there are obviously other interviews and other sources, and they've both written books.
And just before, and obviously for anyone that's listening, when people are in traumatic events, you overplay and overanalyze a situation through the shock and the trauma, and sometimes it's hard to process what happened, isn't it? So it's going to be interesting now to find out between the two different.
Well, they are similar, but not.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that yet, do I? So that's...
No. Well, yeah. So Calvin's experience. So bear in mind, he's completely paralysed. All he can move is his arms. So this creature's got hold of him. He remembers going.
Still got hold of him.
Yeah, he remembers going left down a corridor. He's taken to another.
So, and this is inside the ship.
Inside the craft.
So it's
he's
a big
taken
ship, then.
to another examination room. Again, he describes it exactly as Charles describes it, completely bright.
But a different room.
Blinding bright, different room. But he says he was put on a perspex table, but held at a 45-degree angle.
So he must have been strapped in somehow.
No, he wasn't strapped. He wasn't restrained. He said the thing didn't need to restrain him because he was paralysed.
So they just had him at an angle.
He didn't. He couldn't put up a fight. So this thing puts him on this 45-degree angle perspex table. Goes to the side of the wall, powers down, which is why they think they were robots. It powers down completely.
So this so-called alien at the time that they thought powered down.
Powered down.
Right. Okay.
Then
that just shows you that robotics is
something like a matchbox size thing came out, made 4 clicking sounds in front of his face, scanned his body.
So that could be the eye again.
But it was making clicking sounds as it scans his body.
Okay.
Then he feels the presence of something else in the room with him, and what walks towards him is what he thinks is a human female. And he says she looked so human-like that had she been in a bar, he probably would have offered to buy her a drink.
Oh, wow. So she was attractive.
So he just thought she was just a human. So he's like probably thinking, thank God. But
she was humanoid.
What he did notice was that her middle fingers were unusually long, like creepy long.
Right, okay. So
then he realises, this might not be a human. After all, this might be something else. So she holds his chin down with her left hand, pulls his mouth open with her left arm, reaches inside with her right hand, scratches the back of his throat with those long fingers.
So she's getting samples with the nails.
So he panics, starts to panic and he also bleeds. She makes him bleed. He panics. He completely freaks out. So then I think that makes her panic. So she says to him, "Don't panic. I'm not here to harm you." Guess what? Her lips don't move.
So she telepathically.
But he heard it clear as anything, but her lips never moved.
Wow,
then she made what he said was like a sound, like a guttural. He later on in the 2000 interview that I watched.
But if she's touching him at the time while she's telepathically speaking, that's how she's connecting to him, so that's how she can hear him. How you would like to think.
Oh, I've never thought about that. Yeah. And in all the research I've done, nobody's ever said that.
So even when you think, like when you look at, well, you can only look at what you see, but when we touch, when we connect, when we bond, that's when true communication. So when you do see in sci-fi films, when people with telepathic abilities do touch another vessel, they can then communicate with their power. So that would explain to me that why he could hear her.
Could be,
her
but
communication.
Do you know what? I have had dreams where things talk to me. You know this.
Yeah, of course.
Me and Curtis talk about this all the time.
You mean?
I have dreams all the time, and they come true. And when these beings in my dreams talk to me, the mouths don't move.
Yeah, of course.
I've had dogs talk to me, human-looking things talk to me, and none of them arms move.
Yeah.
And everything they tell me, it does, doesn't it? It
But
comes true.
But that's in that aspect of what we're speaking about now is, in my interpretation, is the communication and the language of spirit. But just in this scenario of the language of vessels, and ours is through speech. I believe the reason he was able to understand her communication was the fact that she was touching his vessel.
Could be.
Touching his bottle.
You could be completely.
Technically, her fingers were in his gob at this time, weren't she? So,
if you're not from the UK, a gob is a mouth.
Yeah, gob is a mouth. Yeah.
Right, let me get to the end of this tale.
I'm getting really engaged into this.
She then calls to the robotic creature, but Charles said it wasn't any language he'd ever heard, and the closest he could describe it was a crocodile mating sound, like a guttural
crocodile. Well, from low
guttural
from their background, that'll be
growling noise. To which this point,
I have no idea of.
Well,
yeah.
So at which point this robotic-like thing springs back to life. I think his words that he used.
It powers up, basically.
Don't quote me on this, but he said it jumped up like a jack in the box.
Right, so it powers up.
Bear in mind, he's panicking at this point. This is the first time since on board he started to panic.
And this is a 19-year-old kid.
This is a 19-year-old kid. It's the first time he's panicking because of obviously the overwhelming calm that he felt at the beginning.
Well, yeah, you'd be shitting yourself.
So he's panicking now.
Normal,
he's freaking out. Even though she's telepathically, or however you want to take it, has told him not to, he's panicking. So she calls to this robot.
Well, the fact that you're being told by something that's not human, telling you to calm down and don't panic.
So
you're going to panic, aren't you?
She calls to this robot. This robot grabs him. He feels a sharp pain in his arm. Overwhelming calm again.
Which could explain that air injection puncture wound.
Yeah, so he feels the overwhelming calm again.
So he's been drugged up.
The next thing he remembers...
Bit of dopamine.
The next thing he remembers is being back on the riverbank.
Okay.
And in the distance, hearing his name being shouted, and it's Charles shouting him.
Okay.
So he's like
probably had some morphine or something.
He does remember the robot moving his arms.
And putting him
out, yeah.
Okay.
So this is what freaks me out, because I think Charles remembers seeing him like that, but Charles never saw the robot bring him down like that.
He just sees Charles in that position.
So there's somewhere where between the two of them,
Charles sees Calvin in that position because Calvin's a kid.
Yeah. So I don't know. Am I wrong in thinking there's some kind of time freeze there between the two? Surely Charles would have seen the robot bring him down, or was he already there?
Well, if they all came from the same ship and they were both in separate rooms, you would like to think that Calvin was moved and placed and put in the position he was, and then after that they released Charles.
Maybe, yeah.
And that's how you could.
And maybe he was
speculate.
In a trance-like state because he'd had the second injection.
The first, and because the first time weren't the injection, the first time was the faint and the unconsciousness of. Well,
no, he in his interviews he claims he was injected with something
straight away.
He thinks he was injected with something, so that's why he felt the calm.
Yeah.
It was Charles who said that he thought Calvin had fainted.
Right, so if Calvin said that, I missed that. So if Calvin said that, then technically they must have injected him again because it was wearing off.
So maybe that's why because according to Charles, it took him quite a long time to get Calvin.
But Charles never got injected.
Yes, he did.
Okay, I missed that bit as well. My apologies. Did he just a quick question
at the beginning, Charles?
Right, okay, just a quick question to fast forward.
The sharp pain
on the documentation of this case. Did they both have the same puncture wound?
I don't know, because when I looked into it, I only found the puncture wound on the information.
And Calvin, because that's interesting.
I'm sure I only read it on Calvin.
I'm sure I only read it technically both,
but I could be completely wrong there. It could have been on both. My memory.
Well, it's something to look into. But
yeah,
that'd be quite interesting if they both had a similar injection site.
I know for definite, Charles definitely had the puncture wound. Charles could have done. He could have done. I could be wrong there.
Okay.
So Charles said it took him, obviously when he saw Calvin stood with his arms stretched, he said it took him a minute to get his legs working again. You know, like when you're in a dream and you can't run properly.
Yeah.
He said it was a bit like that. You know, he's trying to get his legs working, whatever they'd injected into him.
His mobility skills were...
It took him a minute.
So it's paralysis, wasn't it, obviously? A form of paralysis.
So they're back on the riverbank. The craft disappears. No noise. It just completely disappears. So they sit down for a second and they talk about what...
What the fuck?
Can you imagine?
What the fuck?
Can you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
So they're having like a minute like, yeah, what the fuck? So
well, you can't put it into words, can you?
Well,
what
exactly.
The fuck?
Yeah. So
Sorry,
they sit
my
down.
language, but...
And bear in mind as well, this is not like now where
This
you've
is
got
1973.
TV
Yeah, I know.
of a million different channels and all these films and all the...
Multiverses and
not
Marvel,
only,
DC.
But not only that,
Star
these
Wars,
are two
Star
people
Trek.
who don't even really know what a UFO is.
Well, that's what I mean.
So
I'm
they're
not
completely
that.
baffled.
You can imagine what... I can't even... It's a mouthful. Where's this place again? In Mississippi?
Pascagoula.
So Pascagoula, I'm presuming this is in the outback somewhere. And especially the fact that it's got an abandoned corporate...
I don't know if it is a corporate. I don't...
Well, it will be corporate, won't
could
it?
just be making
It's corporation.
Okay.
But it will be. But what? An abandoned facility, which will be
Yeah.
a corporate, at the time would have been a big corporate. Because to build something, to build a facility like what I'm imagining what you're saying, like you have in America, out in the middle of nowhere, isn't cheap to build. And needs a lot of money to build it. So it's going to be from a big corporation.
Yeah.
Like I say, I know
Might
it's
not
abandoned
be,
now or at the time, but for when it was built and what it was doing. But you don't know if there's things... It looks abandoned, but what if there's things underground that's being... You don't know,
Well,
do
yeah, you never know.
You
never know.
With all these CIA operations, NSA
never
operations that have gone on, and, you know, that could be one of them.
Could be. So they make their way back to the car.
Okay.
So we get back to the car. The car window... So, before I tell you this, Calvin had only... Bear in mind, he's only just got to Pascagoula. He's bought this brand new car. He's not even made his first payment on his car. It's a brand new car. There's a crack down the window.
Oh, lovely.
So they don't know what's caused that. Maybe the proximity to the craft. Maybe not. We don't know. Then they try and turn it on. It won't turn on. So it takes them a hot minute to get it going. They finally get it going. It runs absolutely fine.
Minute.
They don't have mobile phones like we do.
No.
So
What do you do?
I forgot to mention, while they were having the talk about what had happened, they did begin to discuss, should we tell somebody, should we not? Should we tell somebody, should we not?
You look insane, won't you?
Calvin doesn't want to tell anybody. He's due to get married. He doesn't want his in-laws to think he's crazy.
Yeah, not job.
He just wants a new life. He doesn't want anything to do with any of it. Charles, on the other hand, bear in mind, is a military man. He wants to tell somebody because this could be an attack on the US, you know. He wants to... He wants to...
Patriotic duty.
Tell. So they decide to tell Keesler Air Force Base.
Oh, wow, well, that went down
So
well,
they
didn't it?
get to... so they go and find... They find a phone and they contact Keesler Air Force Base. Keesler Air Force Base don't... They say, it's nothing to do with us. There's nothing we can do to help you. Contact your local authorities. So they then make a call to Jackson County Sheriff's Office, who then come out to the two men, do a sobriety test, because obviously they think they're crazy. So they think they're drunk. They think
First
something.
thing that they do, yeah.
So they do all the sobriety tests. Obviously they pass because they've not been drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So the police then said to them, come and meet us down at the station. We'll take your information from you. So at first they were recorded separately. And then after they were interviewed separately, Sheriff Fred Diamond decided these two were crazy. They were trying to pull a prank. They were trying to get away with the hoax. So what he did, he put them in a room together. He left a secret tape recorder recording.
That's clever.
And he thought these two men are going to, laugh about it and, say that they've pulled it off. but that's not
It
what
backfired.
that is not what happened. What he recorded were too many were petrified. They were like you would be, because I remember listening to it, and one of them said, how did the door fold in on itself like that? And they were questioning it, and Calvin was saying, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, and Charles was going, I'll give you something to help you go to sleep. You know, like it was like a backwards and forwards of panic,
Trauma.
disbelief, trauma, like what the hell has happened, shock,
But
all
there's no
that.
explanation. Like you say, the main thing is, it's easy for us to look at it now with what
What we know.
because for what is in the media and what is in Hollywood and what we can perceive to be possible, whereas back then there's none of that.
No.
And it's like that. It's a giant head fuck.
Yeah. So Fred Diamond didn't get what he were
You're
hoping to get.
paranoid. You would be paranoid. That'd turn you into a paranoid.
And you know the funny thing is, and even in his later interviews, Calvin, the younger one, said that he went into that interviewing with every intention of saying that he didn't have a clue what Charles was on about, and that he'd not, he was fully ready to deny it, but he didn't know the secret tape recorder was recording, so it caught him out.
So he's going to drop him in shit.
Yeah, not drop him in the shit, but he basically just didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah,
he didn't want people to think he were crazy.
Yeah. So
he just wanted nothing to do with it. So,
but on their side of it, they can also say that was but you've got two judgments. You got two judgments there, haven't you?
Yeah. So the next day they go to work. There's media swarming the place. The boss told them basically, you can't be here. There's too much media. He gave them, I think it was a solicitor he gave them to. Then they underwent medical exams, lie detector tests. A lot of those lie detector tests that they went through, they actually requested themselves. All of them they passed, but you can argue with that, with the lie detector test. It's not that they weren't lying, but did they genuinely believe what they were saying? You know?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So, despite what Calvin wanted, he didn't get that. They found themselves at the centre of one of the most talked about UFO cases in America. Investigators did begin to take an interest, and one of the most notable was Dr. J. Allen Hynek. I don't know if that name
Hynek.
sounds familiar.
German. German.
Well, I don't know if that name sounds familiar to you or not, but it's because he wasn't just some fringe UFO enthusiast. He'd worked as a scientific advisor on Project Blue Book, the United States Air Force's official investigation into UFO reports.
What is Operation Blue Book? You know?
You should know.
Not Blue Book. I know Operation Blue Beam, but not Blue Book.
Well, I'll leave
That's
that
a new one. That's something to look into. Interesting.
And after he looked into the case, he described it as one of the most puzzling encounters he'd ever investigated. Like I said, they went under polygraph examinations, hypnotherapy. They were put under all sorts of different things.
Sorry, just to stop, and for anyone who's listening, from my perspective, just because, did you say this Dr. Allen Hynek? He worked for who? Was it the US Air Force?
He was a scientific advisor on the Project Blue Book.
For
the United States Air Force's official investigation into UFO reports.
So he works for the military-industrial complex. Right, so what I'm trying to get at is, just because he works for a governmental body doesn't mean that another governmental body hasn't done this. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So there's all different organisations and corporate entities that work within countries, and especially, obviously, the USA, for example. So just because one entity can't find the answer doesn't mean that they weren't behind it to the beginning, in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
just to throw that.
believe in aliens, though. So.
Oh yeah, I'm not. It's looking at everything. I'm not saying that it's not aliens. It could be, but I'm saying if the speculation that it was a human cover up to be aliens.
No, well, yeah.
But
you're looking at it from things that we've learned,
but all I'm saying to the audience is, if that could still be true, even though that this Dr. Hynek worked for the U.S. Air Force, still doesn't rule out the fact that it could be another organisation behind it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah.
On the fact that it was human propaganda, but obviously the other thing is it is aliens.
Could be
No one
either.
knows.
Could be either.
It could be either.
I think it's an alien.
Alien.
So the other
Elephant.
top investigator on the Pascagoula case was James Harder, and he was an engineering professor from the University of California. He was a researcher for the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, APRO.
APRO.
APRO,
Never heard
yeah.
that before.
And I think he was the one who put him under hypnosis. Anyway.
Okay.
So yeah, so over the years.
So he did hypnotherapy on him to try and get.
I'm not sure if it was him. I couldn't.
They'd have gone under they'll have also gone under unclassified things that we don't know about as well, I reckon.
Yeah. So Keesler Airport. Remember, I said they weren't interested.
Yes.
The next day, or a few days later, they suddenly were really interested, and then there were a lot of high-profile people there who did want to speak to these two men, etc., etc.
And I bet they signed a lot of documents and NDAs and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I can't say that happened because I've not found any
you would
information.
like, if it not being funny, if the government, if a lot of organisations and it got that much media footage, it weren't nothing, Or was it crisis actors? No.
Well, so
Go on. I'm not.
Don't spoil my.
Yeah, anything's possible. Go on, carry on. I'm not spoiling it.
So some people are convinced that Charles and Calvin did Some people are convinced that Charles and Calvin did encounter something not of this world. Others believe, like you, that there's a more conventional explanation.
No, I don't believe. You look at every possible scenario. That's all. So no one can ever rule and say this is what happened because you don't know. You have to look at different avenues and different alternate realities of the situation, and they're all plausible to be true. But it's finding out what is, and that's the interesting grey area, isn't it? So nobody knows.
Here's how I ended this.
Okay.
So it could have been just a misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been a psychological event, like you said, from the trauma of Charles's war experience, and maybe him
wouldn't share the same thing though, would he?
Maybe him sharing his experience. I don't know, some kind of shared delusion. I very much doubt that.
I doubt that. That's bottom of the barrel.
Misidentification or something completely different. But whatever side of the fence you sit on, one fact does remain, and that's that neither men completely backed away from the story. And like I said, years later, Calvin, although at first seemed reluctant to discuss the encounter, years later he did speak about it. He claimed to have had multiple breakdowns over it. It's really weird because Charles leaned into the spotlight of it, and
on the celebrity side of things,
he did shows and things. Now his son,
well, I bet he made some money out of it, didn't he?
Well, his son claims that he didn't make any profit from it. All he asked these shows were to cover his loss of a day's wage, to do the shows.
Okay.
But I don't have any proof of that. I mean, I think that's actually on Netflix.
Right, but obviously you don't know what managers that he had. You don't know what,
No, but from what.
But he didn't make out of it. Basically.
Yeah. So his son claims he didn't make profits. Okay. Who knows?
Other people
he wrote a
done
book.
That. Yeah.
They both wrote books. Charles's experiences were.
They were exploited in that area most likely. Go on.
So a lot of Charles's experiences were immediately after the fact, which are more, if you think, because you can create false memories too, can't you?
That's what I was saying before. When trauma's involved and you reanalyze, you go over it. Me and you've spoke about this many times over the years, where your brain will input false, um, what's the right word I'm looking for? Inaccurate data to make your brain
Makes
cope
sense.
and make sense with what has happened
Yeah.
to make it reality,
But if you look at
which is also very fascinating.
if you do look at Calvin, he did not want anything to do with it. He shied away. He moved to
He
different
wanted to
towns,
forget it
different
ever happened.
states.
Yeah, of course.
People were actually told not to mention. You know, if new people started at a place of work where he was, they were told not to mention it to him. And then if people found out who were, he would then move on. You know, he just wanted nothing
He
to do with
basically
it.
went in. He went on to, like, what do they call it over there? What do they call it when they go on to a thingy program where?
No, he didn't go in a program.
That's what it's similar to what you're saying. It's like a witness protection program. So whenever he ever got exploited, no, I know he didn't. What I'm saying is, it's something similar. Whenever he was outed for what happened, he'd jump ship and move and change.
Well, yeah, because he didn't want anything to do with it.
That's
And
why I'm
bear in
saying
mind,
it's
this man
like
was
a
like
witness protection.
broken, allegedly broken from what he'd experienced.
Yeah, of course.
It made no sense to him.
Well, I say it's a blimp in his life he wants to forget,
Yeah,
isn't it?
but later on,
A blip, sorry, not a blimp.
in interviews, he kind of changed his mind and he wrote a book and he wanted to write the book in his own words. There was even spelling mistakes in the book that he wrote, apparently. But he wanted
Which
nothing,
is authentic.
Yeah, he wanted nothing changing about it. He wanted it to be as authentic as he remembered it to be. And he does say, I can't remember, I don't want to say which interview it was, but he did say that there was, some of his memories did come back through his hypnotherapist, so some of them are not authentic memories in, like, the sense that me and you would remember something. But yeah, he does remember it.
But the fact of the matter is, in that aspect though, no one, and not even, because we have short-term and long-term memory storage in the brain, and no one can say whether they're right, whether they're true or not, and not even himself, because that's something out of our control.
But what I do believe, these two men did experience exactly what they said they experienced.
Yeah, well, you can't disregard it.
I believe it's aliens, or
I believe it's
humans
a possibility
from
of many things.
The future. Yeah, there's many different things it could be.
The problem that people have or anybody has when you look at certain scenarios is, it's what's your awareness of knowledge, and if you've got a vast awareness of knowledge, you can look at many different scenarios and possibilities on what it may could be. And the two things for me is a governmental organised training exercise.
Could have been.
Or aliens. But apart from that, they'd be the two avenues that I would be looking down further into this case. I would not be thinking anything else.
And like I said, there were a lot of...
Whether one of the two is right, that I'd be on the fence, because you don't know.
There were a lot of witnesses for a lot further down the line who finally did come forward after a lot of years, and they said they didn't come forward because they didn't want people to laugh at them. Some ran away from the craft, some just stood and watched it for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And they all said it was in the spot where these two men claimed to see it. Do you know what the weird thing is, though?
Well,
there was like a bridge watchman or something. You can see it in the background of an interview with Charles, and he claims to have not seen a thing, not heard a thing, nothing.
So there's only certain people that have seen this thing.
So yeah. So what are your thoughts? We'd like to know. But yeah, I hope we hope you enjoyed the first episode. Sorry if we rambled, but you know, we do get into these debates, and it's been fun, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Sorry if I've interrupted you, but it's about dissecting and
our accents,
understanding.
Especially mine, they're quite hard to understand, so apologies if you can't understand us. Usually I'd clean it up, but because we got in a discussion,
you have to apologise.
I might be a bit hard to understand. But I've enjoyed it. So what do you think?
About what? About the story, or just
all
the whole
of
thing?
It? I've enjoyed. I know what you're like.
Well, I've enjoyed this because this is the first time that I've been in a recorded experience. But the story itself, because I'm very open-minded and for the last 10, 13 years, you go down rabbit holes and find out interesting information of life isn't what it seems, and there's always more to what meets the eye. And things like these it's all about sparking your brain and possibilities. But when something doesn't make sense, there's clearly more to it.
Yeah. They've even, the city of Pascagoula, they've even put a plaque at the pier to commemorate, the abduction.
I bet they've got tours, and I bet they make some money off this.
Yeah.
I bet people go and visit this place and they've got tour guides and stuff.
Well, I don't know if they do or not, but I know.
I'd be surprised if they don't. I could be completely wrong, but
you know
can see how people could take advantage of this.
The fact that neither man,
clearly a big story.
The fact that neither man on the deathbed claim that it was a hoax or anything. I truly believe that what they say happened. I just
Well, so do I. It's just what was it
that did it to him. Yeah,
I don't disbelieve them at all. End of the day, all knowledge is everybody's perception and experience.
Yeah,
and they're both their stories, and also, as you've just mentioned, other people's stories.
Yeah,
but.
Well, listen, it's like, and I'll go into this in other episodes, things that have happened to me in the past. That's my perception of it, but somebody could have a genuine answer to it. Somebody could say that was an alien, or...
But it doesn't mean it didn't happen, though.
It doesn't mean it didn't happen, it just means people's
perceptions of it. We're trying to find out what it was.
Yeah, exactly. So this has been really, really fun.
And they're questioning, sorry, just to finish on this note, and that, in my perspective, is what life is all about, because... life is one big question mark that we never truly find out, I don't think. And it's the curiosity of trying to find the answer of this experience.
Definitely.
So that's me on Drop the Mic.
Yeah. And we hope you really enjoyed this episode. All this podcast will do, this podcast is about the strange and the unexplainable, the unknown, paranormal, creepy, spooky. This podcast will cover everything. Some of it will be our own experiences, as you'll find out. Curtis has had his own experiences. I've had my own experiences. There'll be disappearances of people that are unexplainable. There'll be creepy situations. There'll be creepy places. There's going to be so many different things. So if you got to the end of it, brilliant. Give us a like, a subscribe.
And also, if there's any interesting stories that anyone else has listened to that I'd like to share, that'd be also great.
And if you'd like us to cover them, or read them out,
to get in touch,
I'm more than happy. We need so I think, let me just quickly check. I'm sorry if you can hear our dog snoring in the background. So if you email your experiences that you're happy for us to read out to nowimcuriousofficial@gmail.com. We'll be happy to do that, won't we?
Aye, we will. See you on the next one.
See you on the next one. I forgot to say, if you've made it this far, leave an alien or a UFO emoji. Bye.